Well, this week Hasbro's stock dips below $50. I wonder what they've done to upset the shareholders so much. Yes, we're going to talk about Hasbro once again. We have the D&D movie that's about to be released, and yet it debuted on Rotten Tomatoes at 100% of the critics, even though some of the critics were giving it a 3 to a 4 out of 5 or a 7 out of 10. Debuting at 100%, and then it kind of dropped off, went to about 80, and it's creeped back up to about 90 for the critics' knowledge of the movie. A few taking shots across the bow saying it's not going to be that great of a movie, where others are praising it because they put women first in a D&D campaign where it's a fantasy lore type of thing. And if you look back at the time of events in fantasy and in the way, if you want to be historically accurate with Vikings and all these things, yeah, it doesn't bode well for the main heroes. Now, that being said, this week, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro brought out spoilers for the Lord of the Rings set for Magic the Gathering, the official spoilers. And one of the biggest things that came out of it was the one of one ring for Lord of the Rings. They are making a one ring, the one ring to rule them all, and it's being pegged at a 0.00003% chance of being able to pull this thing from a collector's booster only. The boosters that are approximately $35 to $40 Canadian in order to even have a shot at this. The lottery ticket is out there for about $40 Canadian, $30 American, or if you're buying a box of these things, they're north of $400 American dollary dues, which is absolutely ridiculous for a product that should just be out there for all fans. But you know what? They went a step further and really punched their ticket on this Lord of the Rings set by making Aragorn, the king, the strider, the ranger, the silver-eyed, paled-faced ranger is now black like Teferi from the Mirage set of Magic the Gathering. Yeah, they made a set a long, long time ago where they went to and based it off Africa in itself. But no, that representation didn't matter, even though they had reparations of on a card. No, that doesn't matter. They have to tokenize Tolkien's lore work and make the king of Lord of the Rings black. Yeah, that's right. This is an absolute ridiculous place to be. And you wonder why Hasbro's stock price keeps going ever further down. Now, this is on top of the opposed OGL changes, the open gaming license changes that Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast put forward. On top of Kyle Brink, the executive of Dungeons and Dragons, saying that people like himself, referring to his skin color, are moving out of the game, and it's going to be more appropriate for the people that play the game. This is absolutely ridiculous. And these statements from their company is an ongoing trash fire as we see more things get destroyed in landfills and recycling plants when it comes to Magic the Gathering. This is a company where the product quality shows nothing but curved foils and books printed upside down and backwards, where the bindings fall off the books on a constant basis. A Pringles can is a much better storage container for your Magic the Gathering decks than an actual Magic the Gathering deck box. It's absolutely ridiculous. This company continues to let the quality slide. They continue to push a narrative to continue to be the most just company in the world, where they have to push forward the diversity and inclusion narrative. There's a few banks that I'm seeing online that just decided to go belly up because that is the type of things that they are pushing or were pushing. At least that's what I'm seeing. Now, I don't know how rumored that really is. I don't really care that the banks are failing in that sense, because I'm up here in Canada and it's a completely different story when it comes to the bank know-how, although it could still happen. The cascading of effects of the recession could still affect everyone. Now, Magic the Gathering products, they've gone up approximately 11% over the last year, and yet they continue to push out so many cards that nobody can keep up. The narrative has shifted away from the One Ring. And now I am seeing nothing but the narrative of the Black Aragorn being put up front and center. Everyone is calling this thing out. And there's even people that have sat there and taken to AI art and just put, can you put the proper Aragorn on this card with the whole fix in there? Now, generally, we've seen these in the past where people have sat there and redrawn other people's artwork saying, look, I fixed your artwork. And there's been many of an outrage for that. So why is it any different when Wizards of the Coast says to Tolkien or to the Tolkien lore or to the Tolkien Lord of the Rings and say, we fixed your lore and made Aragorn black? This is the whole idea here. Now, the artist in particular for the Lord of the Rings did do Lord of the Rings cards back a few years ago and actually did a version of Aragorn that I would be happy to see on the artwork today for the Magic the Gathering card. So one has to ask the question, what were you prompted to change it? Or were you asked to draw something else and then Wizards of the Coast took that something else and put it on the card? Was this actually the version that Wizards of the Coast wanted for Aragorn? We know that they want to push the diversity quotas, but this is absolutely ridiculous at this point. How many more things need to change in cinema, in pop culture, and everything for these companies to understand that the diversity and the inclusion has always been there? That they don't have to be up front and center and push it down everyone's throat? It's become a day-old question. It's about as stale old as day-old bread, and it's just ridiculous at this point. I want to see a game. You know what? They would have knocked Lord of the Rings set out of the park if they just held up to their part of the bargain and actually went back to the lore. Everyone would have loved it. There's even people that have made Magic the Gathering cards in the past based on Lord of the Rings, and they get a lot of traction whenever they share that online. It's now ridiculous that we have to sit here and talk about these things on a non-stop basis. And some people will sit there in a boardroom and go, well, at least they're talking about it. At least this stuff is at the forward of everyone's mind, because you have to call everything out. No. Everyone was living in harmony and everyone was enjoying life. And now it's, you got to talk about all these things. You got to say this is what's wrong in the world. No, what's wrong in the world is the fact that we're repeating our mistakes of the past. We're repeating what happened back in the 80s and 90s, or really the 70s and the 80s, where we're seeing riots, we're seeing groups forming, and they're fighting each other in the streets. No, that's repeating of history. And all of that got put to bed back a long time ago. Part of it is to break a person's money from their wallet so they shell out some more money for what they believe is a just cause. But those just causes are what's ruining franchises, and it's what's ruining cards. It's what's ruining this company of Hasbro. I went to the dollar store today. I saw nothing but Iron Man and X-Men and Marvel toys down aisles where they're being sold with the Hasbro stamp on them. It must not be doing that well when you're seeing many different versions of their franchise completely fall apart. Hopefully, Chris Cox and Cynthia Williams of Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast can pick their panties up and actually figure out how to come forward and how to actually monetize properly. Give the people what they want, and they will do nothing but shill out money. They will do nothing but talk about it nonstop and do everything. But no, when you sit there and you have to push a narrative and you have to push toys and you have to push something that has been race swapped or gender swapped, or in this case, black-faced, no one wants this. Everyone dislikes it. Everyone wants to see the world in a great area. They don't want to see the evil corporations, because that's what this is continuing to be. It's nothing but capitalistic greed on the backs of minorities, and it's absolutely sickening. Thanks for watching. I'm your proud Canadian Phoenix, Cinder Shadow. Don't forget to like and subscribe.